Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music. What do Yusuf Cat Stevens, Scottish folk music, church songs, and Rick Wakeman have to do with each other? Well, 1971, Teaser and the Firecat had a bunch of great songs on it. Morning Has Broken came to my mind this week. Okay, this is really out of left field, but today we're going to look at the classic, Morning Has Broken. Why do I like this song? In 1971, 72, I guess is when it charted. I was 12, 13 years old, and I was really just starting to get serious about piano. I'd, worn out Carole King's Tapestry and was listening to these great sort of singer-songwriters. It really had changed. The pop music world had changed from the Brill Building writing to independent artists. And it felt like the guitar was starting to rule. And as a young pianist, I really loved hearing piano stuff. So when I heard the introduction to Morning Has Broken, I'm going to play it for you in a second, I was like, that's what I'm talking about. But there's a couple of other things about Morning Has Broken, because the Teaser and the Firecat arrangement, which is an arrangement of a very old Scottish hymn, changes keys. It changes keys twice, beginning in, the introduction begins in D and then modulates down to C, and then it flips back up again to D and then goes back. It's very strange, and it does it in a clever way, worth looking at. Listen, let's just take a look at this. Follow along with this chord progression. I've got the music in front of me. So first, just look at these chords. D, G over D, A, and then F sharp major. And the A to F sharp major is a beautiful sort of chromatic mediant modulation, isn't it? F sharp acts as a 5 to B minor. And then G7 over B, it feels like kind of a weird secondary dominant or a surprise chord, because we've been feeling like we're in D. And then we go to C, and then a classic church music plagal cadence, F to C. Do it quickly and you'll hear the flow, and then I'll play the actual part. G, A, F sharp major, what a surprise, but it's the 5 of B minor. And then this G7 over B, which is strongly tonicizing the C, F to C. And now we're in the key of C. The piano part is by Rick Wakeman. At that time, Rick was like, Mr. Virtuoso piano. Of course, still is one of the great virtuoso rock pianists. And he was getting stuff ready for the Six Wives of Henry VIII. And he had this part that Yusuf Cat Stevens had heard him messing around with in the studio. And Yusuf was like, let's use that. I can't. I'm using it for something else. But he did come up with this. Which is just beautifully busy. Let's record that so we can watch it go by. It's going to go by kind of fast. I'll play it slowly. Hopefully we'll be able to track the notes. A little clam in there, but what a beautiful part. And you can see the just sort of arpeggiated nature of everything. I mean, it's not a complicated thought. Just right on the 3 notes of the D chord, and then on the 3 notes of the G chord, walking down to the straightforward arpeggio on the A chord. Same thing with the F sharp major, just arpeggiating the 3 notes of the B minor chord, and then this G7 over the B is the first sort of surprise moment, because the B tonicizes the C in a great way. and then this lovely sort of pentatonic sound, and then plagal cadence to C. And it feels churchy, doesn't it? And it is. So look at this. Morning is Broken is a Christian hymn, first published in 1931. And the words for it were written by Eleanor Fargion. And here you can see a beautiful profile picture of her masquerading as Whistler's mother, I guessed. The tune itself is an old Scottish folk melody, which has been called Bunasan after the name of the town that it was from. And here's the melody. You can see it's written here in 9/8. Really is the melody we know from the Yusuf Cat Stevens song. A little different there, just down the chord. I love how it outlines the chords. And it's nearly a pentatonic melody. There's a B right here. Darn it. I wish it was just a 5-note melody, but it's not. Let's get into the song itself. And the melody is really just what we just saw with the chords. This is a pickup, and that we're at the 1 chord to the 2 chord, 5, 4, 1. Walk up the scale to the 3, 6, 2 sus, to 5. Not really surprising, right? It feels like it's very much in that ordinary sort of church world. And now 4 chord, right? We had seen a 1 chord there before, and then back to 1. 6, and then D major. This is a secondary dominant. We'd expect D minor there, but it's D major with the F sharp. G goes to C, and then G7 resolves to C, and we're at that phrase. And it goes to A minor, G, C. In other words, it creates a moment that cycles back to the key of C rather than pushing into a new key. And it's different from the way it appeared first. Let's look at it. I love that E, but it goes to A minor and kind of bails out G to C. It doesn't have that tension that the introduction has. And I guess that's no surprise. We go back and do a second verse, again in the key of C, and then there's a second ending. Coming out of the second verse, we go to the same pattern that we've had, but remember, we're heading to D major now. So here's the C chord to F. Nothing surprising. E major goes to A minor, and now we're in the second ending. So here's the A minor, which goes to F major, and this feels new. And this G now sounds like a 4 chord to D, and then this beautiful A7 over D to D. And we've resolved that pattern, and we're living now in the key of D major. It's surprising. It's resolved to D, and it's done so seamlessly. My 12-year-old self's mind was blown. I could tell something had happened, but I kind of didn't know what. I didn't actually really learn to play this part until, I don't know, much later in my life. So now we do the same melody in the key of D, and you can hear on the recording, this is a bit of a strain for Yusuf Cat Stevens. It's a little bit high, even with his reedy tenor voice. It's the same chord progression to 5, 4, 1, 3, 6. Oh, well, actually, that's different. That's a dominant chord, so it's a secondary dominant to the A. It would have been E minor in the first go through. This is the 4 chord, 6, and then here's another secondary dominant, E to A, D, G, and now we're going to do the pattern that we had before that introduced the piece. It's the introduction, isn't it? I love that introduction. When we go back and do the verse again, we get the verse for the third time in C. We're back to C. We had a middle eight, so to speak, and it was in a new key. It was just, I can't think of another song exactly that does this. It's sort of weirdly genius, and it definitely, you feel the lift and then you relax back down into the key of C. So it starts off just the same. And it says to coda, so I have to go to the end. Coda means tail. It's tagged on to the end of a piece. So it's an Italian word for tail. So here we are in A minor. And now here's the modulation. We're kind of in D now. That's a 4 chord. That's a 1 chord. That's a 5/7 over 1, and it resolves to D. This simple little folk melody, not very long at all, wouldn't have been enough to make a song out of for a record in 1971, but this beautiful arrangement, this surprising arrangement, propelled by Rick Wakeman's, exceptional piano part, turns this into like kind of this weird sort of epic, very moving sort of space. There are other great songs on that recording, Peace Train, Moon Shadow, other things like that. And of course, that whole period of music is just very, very interesting. This sort of bubbling transition from one state to another. If you've been getting something out of these videos and you're not subscribed, now's a great time to hit that subscribe button. In fact, if you stayed around for all of this, you're either old like me or interested in this kind of stuff. And if you're interested in this kind of stuff, subscribe. Hit the like button for the video. Leave a comment. I'm curious to know what you think about this music. And, I hope it's been useful. I'll see you next time.